Alright, so in this case, we're going to do a little bit of sketching and working from life. Just gotta find my pencils.
Mom?
I'm streaming, honey. Yes? What do you want? Let me see.
My hair hurt.
Your tooth hurts. You go brush them.
Oh, it hurts. I brushed them, but it still hurts.
It's a terrible circle. Oh. So what I'm doing here is I'm building up a couple different shapes. And we're going to go in to something a little bit more organic. It's always good to practice your basic shading techniques.
I think my tooth is soft.
You think your tooth is soft?
Mom.
And yeah, you need, seriously, go brush teeth.
I already brushed them.
No, you just woke up.
We had a deal.
Yeah, we did.
Can I have an ice pop?
Oh my God. Honey, baby girl, I am streaming. This is like live. Okay. Stupid ice pop thing won't come out. Oh man. Oh, there's one. Anyway, I'm trying to get my restream.io chat up so I can see the chat. put those back, please. Oh my gosh. Okay. So much background noise. Oh my goodness. You can get it to work, but you have to do it out in the living room and don't bother your brother. Oh my goodness. Oh.
You want to do it?
Hi, Neil. Do live but not drawing. Do like house tour or shopping and more. That wouldn't fit the niche. Yeah, of this particular channel. Like, why? I don't know. Why would somebody want to see? Shopping or more. Yeah. So, with a sphere, because it's round, you have to do a gradation from your light source, which would be here. Right? And then it would be a gradation of bright to dark. Here, since the light is coming from this corner, here would be brighter. It's just a little shadow on the edge. Here would be very bright. This would be in shadow. And the cone is kind of the same way as the sphere because it's rounded. You would have a gradation where this side would be darker and this side would be lighter.
Mom, I don't want to go.
Oh, hold on. Parenting. Do you want me to get it? This is why you should CPR on room so my light doesn't wake you up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you take that out into a lot of air, please? Thank you. You because famous? Oh, I see now. Now, yeah, fame is all good, but it's not about fame. Yeah, as an artist, you want followers because that's marketing wise. Drawing stream boring. But yeah. Oh, you can say that, but there's a pretty strong following on various creatives on Twitch. And a lot of those paint, which is an even slower process. So, light's coming here, so there would literally be a cone of light here, which would hit here. And then, instead of having a hard line here, you find your plane of existence, or like I call it, like say there's a table. And it's okay to draw through your drawing, you can always erase it again. Yeah, I don't want to do that because then it's right on the edge of the table. Ah, bad idea. Cat, what are you looking at? My cat's under my table. It's my cat. Crazy cat. So what happens here is now that I have a surface for us to be on, it's coming from here. So the shadow would come from the opposite corner. So if you're looking down at it from the top view, if the light source is here, the heaviest shadow would be over here. So when you think of it as a sphere, you can see how it changes. So then the heaviest shadow would be back here. And because the light's hitting off of it, it would actually fall off the edge of the table. And then, because again it's a sphere, as you go around the outside edge of the ball, the shadow actually gets lighter towards the edges. And then you do your gradation. I think I need to work on my customer service there a little bit and not be so defensive. I'm sorry, Namville, that you find drawing streams boring. And then what you can do here, instead of having that hard line, you let that fade to very pale. And then your background is how you can make that highlight pop. So you start filling in the background with like a mid-tone color. It's just dark enough. You don't want it as dark as your shadows. And you want it light enough so that the dark side of the ball pops as well. And you also don't want to just draw in one direction. And you have that same kind of mid-tone for the edge of the table or whatever here. And you have a sphere, a shaded sphere. Cat, that's my foot. Seriously, my cat's going after my toes. Stop. Now, with a box or a square, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to offset. So we have that line of plane. Now this is just a straight 3D box. There's no real perspective in it or anything. I would have to fix that, but it's more of a example of how this works. So, ow, cat, get off my, stop going after my toes. Again, with the box, to bring that brightest surface to make it pop, you want to have your background like a mid-tone. While I'm over here, I'm gonna fill in the sphere, might as well, and make it a scene rather than individual drawings. And you notice I'm not using the point of the pencil, I'm using the side of the pencil. And yeah, this is just a regular number 2. Yeah, I could use classic drawing pencils, and the hardness of the lead will help with various levels of like mid-tones, because the hardness of the lead determines how easily they apply themselves to whatever it is you're working on. So again, coming from this direction, this here, this part of it would be brighter. So there would be an ever so slight gray area right here. Not a lot. Not a lot. Because it's depending on the strength of your light, like if it's a really strong light, this whole area might look even, but if you look at the edge right here, there's a highlight right here. And this is because the light is coming from up and down. So you have a highlight here, but it is slightly darker over here. But only a little bit. And it's subtle. You want it to be subtle. So it's almost like the edge of the box fades almost into the edge of the background. Now, this face of the box would be a bit darker because it doesn't have light, not a lot of light. Like, as you can see now that the side of the 4 is facing away from the light when I do this, and it gets a shadow, but it's not a dark shadow. Yeah, Neil. Welcome back, and yeah, I'm talking alone because, you know, it's a thing. Now this edge would be ever so slightly darker. And this bottom would be ever so slightly darker, because that's where the heaviest shadow is. And then the light source would cast the shadow from the edge here. You know what? Since we're coming from here to here, the shadow would be cast this way. But there would also be some coming from this corner, and then this edge is where the shadow would cut off. And then you could see the shape of the box in the shadow. My box shadow's off by a bit. Yeah, my box shadow's off by quite a bit. So if it's at this angle, it would be at this angle. Believe it or not, box shadows are a little bit easier. Because they're square. Close enough. You know, again, the light source is here. You're gonna have this sort of thing happen. And practicing on general shapes just out of your mind is a good way to get a solid base, but you don't want to stick to it. You want to draw from life. You want to set something up, different shapes. And then again, this, because it ends with that point, you would have really dark shadow here. And then again, it would fade out. And it would come to that point. think I did that right. Actually, I did it the wrong way. Point should be over here. And yeah, you know, it's okay to be talking to yourself when you're streaming. When you're a small-time streamer, you can't help it. I mean, if you're not talking, when people do find you, then it's just a silent stream. Yeah, and that's been fun. I should have streamed earlier in the morning because my daughter is up and my son isn't, and she's demanding attention. Yeah, my shadows are all kinds of off on that one. You get the general idea. Now what you can do, I use dice sometimes. They're a little tiny. But you can use anything. But you can set up a scene. Maybe stack 2 dice together at a different angle. Maybe offset them somewhat. I'll do that again. And then you draw that. I'm gonna see if I can. Zoom in some more so you can see the dice. This is 2 dice stacked. Going to try something here. I don't know if that'll actually work, but I set up my webcam to try to capture the little still life up in the corner. I'm not going to draw what's in front of me. I'm going to try to draw what's up there. So now, in this case, you have two light sources. You have a light source over here, and you have a light source over there. Okay, I'm going to move my face cam. You have a lamp there, and a lamp there. And what this does is it gives you, even though it's not giving you exactly two shadows, you can see here this shadow is a lot darker because this one is being filled by the secondary light. And it's softening this shadow. There we go. You can see all the reflections and everything. It's pretty awesome. And you can see this one, the dice itself is a lot darker, but because of where it's positioned, the shadows around it are a lot darker. Oh, there's a third light, by the way. So there's a third light that's coming in to soften this. Turn that off, you'll see. Now everything's much darker. And then I'll turn off that lamp. Turn this on. This is often what you get when you're dealing with videography and photography. They're called backlights or fill lights. So knowing that you have where the dice are sitting, you have a lamp here that's actually pointing this way, so you're getting reflected light coming in, and it's filling in the shadows over here. You have the main light, which is not directed at here. It's pointed more down towards the desk on that side, because it's the way it's angled. And then you have my normal face light, which is giving more direct light. And this is influencing shadows. You notice that the ones that highlighting the dice, it's not strong enough to give a hard shadow going in the opposite direction. If I were to move my one light source more directly, see how hard those shadows get? Because now it's directed at the dice. And notice as I move it away, the shadows actually get longer. And go with the other lamp. With a more direct light, now you get that double shadow. Now you get a shadow here. You get a shadow here. And if you're paying attention, hey Non, can you please go easy with the water? There's also something else I want to point out. Let me turn off my fill light. The light coming from this direction is a blue lamp light. This shadow is actually a brownish yellow color. The light coming from this direction is yellow light, and this shadow is more of a blue-gray. What's happening here is that the color of the light is affecting the color of the shadow. Same thing you can see here. This shadow is more yellow. That shadow is more blue. Now that we're looking at this, even though that this shadow has an orangey fill, it's actually more, just in general, it's more, hold on, I knocked the dice. It's more yellow in general. And then this light is a bluish white light. So that gives this here a slight yellow cast over on this side. And I apologize for the noise in the background. Like I said, this is the one part of parenting and being an artist that it's a conflict and I have to make concessions for it. Anyway. For some reason, Restream didn't pull all my comments. I double checked on YouTube. I'm not liking this. When I have a stream starting, I expect the comments to come back through the Restream chat option, but it's not there. It looks like, Nabil, I think that's how you say it, is it? This is, how you make your own art channel. You just like you make a gaming channel, and he also said that his sister's good at drawing. That's pretty awesome. I don't even draw. Anybody can draw, really. Take some practice. So drawing from life can be tough. And what you can do for measuring... Oh, move the camera. I'm so sorry. For measuring things, you can use your pencil, your finger, squint your eyes, that kind of thing. Looking a general idea. And I have a tendency of curving my straight lines, I don't know why. So then, you want to block in your major shapes. It's not exactly a round, because it's a D12. But it's enough of a round shape that you can give it a roundish. And then this dice is almost entirely if you look, I'm trying to just block in the major shapes. I'm not worrying about perspective or anything else like that right now. I'm just trying to get the general outlines. So now I gotta figure out it's about where I should taller up because it takes a lot more. It's covering up a lot more of the die. You gotta deal with 2-point perspective in this regards. corner of this box is lined up with the bottom point of this face. This always gives me a headache. Trying to get the faces just right. Nah. I'm too tired to try to figure this out. I'm going all super technical. We'll start with this guy. My perspective's got to be all kind of warped. Trying to do this. You just barely see the top of that square. It's facing the camera at the angle, it's not exactly even either. Underneath this point is kind of poking out some. Because this one this is the face of this box. This is a rounded point. It's not a pointy point, it's a rounded point. I think I did that wrong. So this goes here like this. This comes out of the steeper angle. Because it does that. This is the shape of the thing. That should be more. That should be a lot thinner because that face is not showing as much. So it comes up with a 0, which is what's showing more. Which lines up with that side of that box. So and the edge of it is about halfway down before it ganks back up again. And this. It's hard to read 7. And this is an exceedingly warped 2. And then this is, it's almost a square 0. It's way too big. And then it comes down, because this is the side that it's sitting on, for the face. Oh my goodness. It is so not quite there. This was going to be difficult to do. So because it is a pentagon shape. All the shapes are pentagon shapes. So this is just the type of dice that it is, so I'm trying to use the points on the dice based on the picture to try to measure out where edges are supposed to go. And it's sitting on this edge. Actually, like that. These two sides are pretty even. And this side just kind of disappears in the shadow. And then this side comes down. You know, pentagon. So, corner, corner. because it's a pentagon. Again, not the best. Yeah, the main source of light is coming from here, from over in this direction. This is the shadow. Again, I'm just roughing in. It's almost rounded. And this one's a really long shadow. But if you remember that the bottom of it's here, it would come from that corner. And it's kind of bent slightly because the two of them, the way they're set up, there's a little bend right here. See it right there? Wow. Iona, love, get out. Sweetie, that's too loud. I love my kids. And again, I'm just kind of blocking in some tonal values. Got a brush. Some of the things I don't have. And this is like not quite the shape it should be. Has to do more with my perspective than anything else. Now there's a highlight right here because of the way the face bends towards. It's catching a little bit of a highlight right there towards the light. one's definitely darker. Oh. You start filling in the shadow a little bit more. And because of all this secondary lighting, the shadow isn't going to be just straight up one source. You're going to have light spots and dark spots. And if I were painting this, I'd be using different blues and yellows to try to make it pop more. You can see how the shadow is a lot darker. I think after this I'm going to have to get up and go be a parent. So this kind of drawing from life, whether it's for design, art, or animation, it's really good practice. Because it gets you thinking. Ow, it was my elbow. So right here, the shadow is extra dark. Pardon, my sketchbook got in the way there. And you want to try, as you shade, to get rid of some of the hard edges and just fill it in with shadow so there's no lines. Because you can see here, it kind of transitions into so this hard line here needs to just be shadow. And the same here. It needs to be shadow, not a hard line. And because of the reflective nature of the light and the third light coming on, there's an ever so almost unnoticeable highlight here on the point. I don't know if you can see that right there. There's this tiny little highlight right there. You can see it over here, and that's from the other light right there. And the same here, that hard edge needs to be softened. And the edge should be determined more by the shadow. Same thing here. That little hard edge. This needs to be softened. And since there's a lot of specular bouncing light here, you have this nice gradation from here to here. And if you squint, you'll see that the background is actually slightly darker than the dice. And this dice here is slightly darker than the D10. You don't want to overwork the paper too much, because then the paper grains kind of they get matted down. And try to avoid outlining as much as you can. Use the shadows to sculpt the edges. I'm getting graphite all over me. Big stretch. Big stretch. This one's too squished this way. So again, I'm going to use the fact that the background is slightly darker than the dice. To give me a bit of a boost. Those 9's really dark. I'm smearing stuff. There. This is very bright up here. Erase some. And then this 5 is just this one's actually darker than the background. Not as dark as the 9. The 9 is really dark. Okay, you can see here that the paper's overworked, so I need to move on. And the 11's pretty dark too. It's almost the same darkness as the 9. Shadow underneath it was really dark. And then here, because the dice edges are rounded, you have a highlight from that other light. And so here, the background is darker. Maybe not there. Background is actually brighter right there. And I love it. Oh. Slight highlight on the edge. A slight highlight on the edge. Yeah. Some texture in there. I'm not really shading, I'm just adding texture. There you go. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not the best in the world. I'm not a realist illustrator or drawer, but it's good practice. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the little bell notification if you want to keep up to date when I do these again.